What if one day, while fixing a rusty old car on the roadside, the president of your country suddenly stepped out of a black car and called you by name? This is the unbelievable true story of how President Ibrahim Traoré found his childhood friend, and how one encounter changed everything. The midday sun blazed over the bustling streets of Ouagadougou. Heat shimmered above the tarmac, horns blared, and motorbikes weaved through traffic. At a dusty corner of the road, a man crouched beneath the hood of an old pickup truck. His name was Thomas. His shirt was soaked with sweat, his hands stained with black oil, his face weary but determined. Around him, the world rushed past. He didn't notice, because all he cared about was finishing this repair. Once, Thomas had been the brightest boy in his school. Teachers praised his quick mind, and classmates whispered that he would become a great engineer one day. But life had other plans. When Thomas was 16, tragedy struck. A fire swept through his home, claiming both of his parents. Overnight, his world collapsed. Instead of chasing his dreams, Thomas was forced to abandon school and care for his younger sister. To survive, he learned to repair engines from an elderly villager. Over time, his skills grew and he moved to the city, opening a small roadside workshop. Life as a mechanic was hard. Some days he went home with nothing. Some days customers shouted at him, accusing him of delays or cheating. But Thomas never cheated anyone. His honesty was his pride. He often told himself, "If I stay, true, better days will come." That dusty afternoon, as he bent over a battered motorcycle, Thomas had no idea his life was about to change forever. The hum of engines grew louder. A sleek black car rolled to a stop at the junction. Behind it, several more vehicles formed a convoy. The crowd murmured, "It's the president's motorcade." Bodyguards in dark suits stepped out, scanning the area. Phones lifted, people gathered, whispering. But Thomas barely looked up. Wealthy men in expensive cars didn't pay his bills. He tightened another bolt, wiped sweat from his forehead, and focused on his work. Then the door of the main car opened. A tall man stepped out in a crisp military uniform. His eyes swept across the crowd. Suddenly they froze. He looked straight at Thomas. "Thomas," the man whispered, his voice trembling. At first, Thomas didn't react. Then he heard it again. Louder this time. "Thomas, is that really you?" Slowly, Thomas lifted his head. His eyes widened. Standing before him was President Ibrahim Traoré. Silence fell. The bustling street seemed to pause. Even the motorbikes slowed as people realized what was happening. Ibrahim removed his cap and strode forward. Before the bodyguards could react, he threw his arms around the stunned mechanic. "Thomas, my brother," he said, his voice breaking. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The president of Burkina Faso was hugging a poor roadside mechanic, crying openly in the street. Thomas's chest tightened. His eyes filled with tears. "Ibrahim, I can't believe it's you." They hadn't seen each other since boyhood. Once, they had run through the same dusty fields, studied under the same flickering lanterns, and shared wild dreams of changing the country together. Life had sent one to the presidential palace, and the other to a small workshop. "You promised." "We would change this country side by side," Ibrahim whispered. "How did I let this happen to you?" Thomas gave a faint smile. "You didn't. Life just took us on different roads." The crowd was stunned. Phones recorded. Some wept quietly. Then Ibrahim gripped Thomas's shoulders. "Come with me. Leave this place." But Thomas shook his head. "I can't. My customers are waiting." Ibrahim stared at the unfinished motorcycle, then did the unthinkable. He lowered himself onto the creaky wooden stool beside Thomas. "Then I'll sit with you," he said firmly. The president of a nation sat on a dirty roadside bench beside his childhood friend. The crowd roared in disbelief. The two men sat together, surrounded by dust, heat, and stunned silence. "You haven't changed, Thomas," Ibrahim said softly. "Still humble, still stubborn. And you," Thomas chuckled, "are still dramatic, sitting next to a mechanic in front of the whole city. Your guards look like they might faint." They both laughed, tears mixing with joy. Ibrahim's eyes softened. "Do you remember when we stole mangoes from old man Kiboli's farm? You ran so fast your shoe flew into the river. Yet you came back for me." Thomas smiled. "And you told me one day we'd lead this country together." Ibrahim's smile faded. "I should have searched for you. I should have helped." Thomas looked at his oil-stained hands. "I don't blame you. I'm proud of what you've done. Look at where you are now." Ibrahim sighed. "How can I say I'm changing this country when the brightest boy I knew is still struggling?" Before Thomas could answer, a small voice interrupted. A little girl ran up, her braids bouncing. "Papa! Mama says come home early. There's no firewood to cook rice." She stopped, eyes widening at the man beside her father. "Papa! Is that the president?" Thomas smiled. "Yes, Amina. This is Uncle Ibrahim." Ibrahim's face lit up. "Come here, little one." She hesitated, then stepped into his arms. He hugged her tightly. "She's beautiful," Ibrahim said softly. "What's her name?" "Amina," Thomas replied with pride. "My everything." Ibrahim's expression turned serious. "She deserves more than this, Thomas. You've carried too much. Let me help." Thomas shook his head. "I don't need charity. I need a promise." "Anything," Ibrahim said without hesitation. "Promise me you'll make this a country where no child has to leave school to survive. Promise you'll protect honest, hard-working people like me." Ibrahim gripped his hand. "I promise. On my honor." The next morning, the dusty street buzzed with whispers. Something unusual was happening. A stage had been set up right in front of Thomas's workshop. Loudspeakers stood ready. The presidential convoy rolled up again, this time with journalists, cameras, and officials. "What is going on?" Thomas asked, bewildered. Ibrahim stepped out, smiling warmly. "Yesterday I cried. Today I came to honor." He took the microphone. "People of Burkina Faso," he began. "This is Thomas, my friend since childhood. He was the brightest in our class. He taught me mathematics when I was failing. He shared food when I had none. He gave up his dreams to raise his sister. While I became president, he worked here, quietly, honestly, without complaint." So, crowd hushed. Cameras flashed. Yesterday he reminded me of what real service means. He didn't ask for riches. He asked me to build a country where no child must abandon school. Today I make that promise. He turned to Thomas. "From now, this workshop will become a government training center. You will teach young people to repair cars, to earn with dignity. The building, tools, and staff are ready." The crowd erupted in applause. "And your daughter, Amina, she will receive a full scholarship. Any school, any university, anywhere in the world." Thomas dropped his wrench. His knees shook. Tears poured down his cheeks. He never asked for fame, never asked for wealth. All he wanted was to be remembered. Now he was being celebrated. The media broadcast the moment nationwide. People cried. People cheered. Some said, maybe, just maybe things are changing. But not everyone celebrated. 3 days later, a shiny black car pulled up outside the new training center. 2 men stepped out, strangers with cold eyes. Inside Thomas's office, they placed a thick brown envelope on the desk. "Inside is 5 million CFA, one said. "We know you're close to the president. We need you to give him something to drink when he visits." Thomas's stomach dropped. "You want me to poison him?" The men leaned closer. "Not poison. Just a special drink. He'll fall sick, and you'll be safe. In return, you'll be rich. Houses, cars, your daughter studying abroad. Think about it." Thomas stared at the envelope. His mind raced. Finally, he said, "Come back in 2 days." The men smirked, convinced. But Thomas already knew what he would do. That night, Thomas rushed to the palace. He placed the envelope on Ibrahim's desk. "Your enemies tried to buy me," he said firmly, "but I could never betray you." Ibrahim's face hardened. "Tell me everything." Thomas described the men, their plan, their promises of wealth. By morning, they were arrested. In the interrogation room, one man confessed, "We were sent by powerful people. If I helped remove you, I'd get a seat in the new government." Thomas glared. "Don't blame the devil. You had a choice, and you chose evil." The conspirators were sentenced to decades in prison. The nation was shocked. Ibrahim turned to Thomas, deeply moved. "You didn't just save me. You saved the country. From today, you are more than a friend. You are my brother." A week later, Ibrahim held a national press conference. "My fellow citizens, today is not about me. It is about a man who reminded us of truth, loyalty, and friendship. This man was offered riches, but he chose honesty." He pointed to Thomas, who sat with his family in the front row. The crowd erupted in applause. "Amina, daughter of Thomas," Ibrahim declared, "will receive a full scholarship to study at any university in the world." The girl ran to the stage, tears streaming down her face. She hugged her father tightly. "Thank you, Papa," she whispered. "And Esther, wife of Thomas," Ibrahim continued, "you encouraged your husband to do the right thing. In your honor, a modern supermarket will open under your name. You will never struggle again." Esther wept, overwhelmed. That same day, 2 new buildings were unveiled: the Thomas and Esther Supermarket and the National Mechanic Training Center. That evening, Thomas and his family sat at their new home, the table overflowing with food. He raised his glass of juice. "To my wife, my daughter, and my brother, the president. Today, we celebrate friendship and truth." "To truth," Esther echoed. "To my scholarship," Amina added playfully. They all laughed. At the palace, Ibrahim stood by his window, gazing at the stars. "Some presidents are protected by guards and gates," he whispered. "But me, I am protected by a friend." And so began a new chapter for Burkina Faso. A story where even a poor roadside mechanic could rise, where honesty proved stronger than wealth, and where true friendship could change the fate of a nation. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who still believes in loyalty, honesty, and kindness. Because sometimes the smallest act of integrity can inspire an entire country.